Today we are going to focus our reflection on Simon Peter. The evangelist tells us that Simon could somehow feel that something wrong is going on, but he cannot make out exactly what it is. Parang napansin niya that Jesus was restless. They heard him mumbling that one of them was going to betray him. And John tells us that Peter had signaled to him with a nod. Parang pakitanong mo nga kung sino ba yung tinutukoy niya. They're communicating through sign language. And Jesus does not answer actually with a name. He also gives a signal. The one to whom he will give a morsel of bread, kapirasong tinapay, he would dip it in some sauce and would give it to Judas Iscariot. You know, I use my imagination and try to picture the disciples. Kung Pilipino siguro si Peter or si John, nung sabihin ni Peter, ask him who is going to betray him. And he answered, most likely, kung Pinoy siya, baka ginamit niya yung labi niya. Tayo mga Pinoy kasi, we do that eh. To point at somebody using the lips. Hindi pala yun ginagawa sa ibang kultura. Tayo lang yung gumagawa nun. But Peter is a bit confused because he presupposes that Judas is really going to do something. Siya ang treasurer, and he's the one in charge of the provisions. Siya yung kailangang bumili ng kailangan nila para sa Passover festival or to do some almsgiving for the poor. Kaya, Peter must have been at a loss how to interpret the body language of Jesus and the meaning of the things that were happening around him. You know, there was one fictional movie, and it was fictional, about Peter, na ang title ay Quo Vadis Domine. In English, Where are you going, Lord? At usually kapag Semana Santa, pinalalabas yun sa TV. Ang storyline it is about Peter escaping from Rome nung panahon ng persecution, trying to save his skin and leaving the church behind. Apparently, as he is running away from Rome, salubong niya si Jesus, carrying a cross and going to the opposite direction, meaning to the direction of Rome. And that's supposed to be the occasion for him to ask Jesus the question, saan ho kayo pupunta? Where are you going, Lord? Well, today's gospel makes me realize na yung akala ko fictional story, hindi pala siya totally fictional. After all, because we heard it in the gospel reading this evening, Peter asked the question to Jesus at the Last Supper. Ang sabi niya, where are you going, Master? Kasi parang ramdam niya nagpapaalam si Jesus. And you know, ang kasunod nito is a long habilin from Jesus. And they call it the ultimo adios, the last farewell of Jesus. And by the way, it's going to be the topic of my recollection tomorrow. John is describing the heart-rending scene of a friend who seems to be fully aware that he is about to go, and he cannot explain to them what he is going through. He cannot say exactly where he is going. Alam niyo ba yung the pain of knowing na aalis ka na and you're going to leave your loved ones behind? You know, I used to quote from that song by John Denver na alam nating lahat, yung living on a jet plane. Diba? Sabi nung kanta, all his bags are packed and he is ready to go. He's standing there outside the door. But he doesn't have the heart to wake up his wife in order to say goodbye. Ang sakit nun, di ba? Gusto mong magpaalam, pero you hold back because alam mo masakit. Here in the gospel, Jesus is saying goodbye in a roundabout way. Hindi niya madiretso. And Judas has already stepped out into the dark night of betrayal. At ito na yung simula ng pagpanaog ni Jesus sa impyerno na daranasin niya sa Kalbaryo. His arrest and condemnation, His public humiliation, His passion and death on the cross. In short, His departure, ang kanyang paglisan. But the disciples are totally clueless. They couldn't figure out what's going on. They're not even aware that something wrong was happening. And the question of Peter sounds to me like a lament. Where are you going, Lord? You know, our first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 49, is also expressing a lament. Israel is described as a suffering servant. But instead of saying, "Where are you going, Lord?" ang sinasabi niya, "Where have you gone, O Lord? Saan ka nagpunta? Why have you left us behind? Why have you abandoned us, forsaken us? Why have you allowed us to be dispersed all over the world?" Remember, they were exiled. Their country was destroyed. Parang Ukraine baga. Can you imagine 6.5 million Ukrainians now scattered all over Europe like refugees? I imagine them praying to God and saying, "Lord, bakit ninyo hinayaang mangyari sa amin to? Why have you allowed us to be scattered like lost sheep in the wilderness?" In the oracle of Isaiah, the prophet is consoling himself by actually proposing his own answer to his own question. That maybe this was all just for the purpose of bringing Israel back to God. Maybe God really allowed them to experience the pain of being exiled, the pain of being scattered abroad, so that they would humble themselves, so that they would turn back to God. And so, He would be able to gather them together again and rebuild their fallen nation. Pero, sa first reading natin, towards the end, biglang may twist. And God Himself is offering an answer to the lament of the prophet, na parang ganitong sinasabi, No, that was not the purpose of it all. I have allowed you to be scattered all over the world so that through you, I will be able to reach the rest of the world. You have a mission. You are going to bring my light to the nations. I will make of you a light to the Gentiles, so that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth. Well, this is also what Jesus is trying to explain to Peter sa ating ebanghelyo. Sabi niya, yung pupuntahan ko, hindi niyo pa alam kung saan. You do not know, but you will follow me later. Parang, it is his way of saying, it won't make sense to you immediately why we have to be separated from one another. But soon, you will understand. Parang ganito rin yung consolation na binigay ni Pope Francis when he addressed the Filipino migrant workers, mga OFWs, when they were gathered together in Rome to celebrate or commemorate the 500th year of Christianity in the Philippines. Doon sa homily ni Pope Francis, he acknowledged the fact that yung mga majority of the Filipinos who find themselves migrating abroad are hurting. Sila daw yung tipong living in the fringes. Those from the fringes of the Philippine society who have been forced by their difficult circumstances na maghanap ng trabaho abroad. Totoo naman, di ba? Kung meron lang talagang trabaho dito sa Pilipinas, ba't aalis ka pa? Mamimiss mo pati ang pamilya mo. But you can imagine the sacrifice of OFWs. And so Pope Francis notes the irony of the fact that it is people like them who have been scattered in many countries around the world who are now becoming the new evangelizers. Ako, I remember that very distinctly nung estudyante pa ako sa Belgium. I used to celebrate Mass for OFWs in Brussels. And I remember one lady na domestic helper. And she was very homesick. At parang nagtatampo kay God. Ba't niya hinayaang malayo siya sa kanyang pamilya? And she was so worried for her family kasi lasinggero pa yung mister niya. She's not confident that the mister is really looking after her children. Ganon yung dating niya nung una. Fast forward many months later, alam niyo, umattend siya sa misa kasama yung amo niya at yung mga anak ng amo niya who never attended Mass daw kahit Katoliko sila. All because nangungulit yung mga bata. Bakit hindi tayo magsimba Katoliko tayo? And then I remember that lady telling me, ngayon ko lang naintindihan, may mission pala ako dito. She suddenly was thinking of herself as a missionary. Na yung kanyang pagpunta roon, hindi parusa, kundi mission. And Pope Francis even made people laugh nung tinawag niya yung OFWs in Spanish. Ang sabi niya, sois los contrabandistas de la fe. Mga smuggler daw tayo. Mga smuggler ng pananampalataya. And people laughed. Alam natin yung kontrabando, di ba? Kontrabandista. Mga smuggler ng pananampalataya. Because we bring our faith with us. Even if you do not have the purpose of going there to evangelize, just living your faith is already evangelizing. Sabi niya, the joy of the gospel is evident in your eyes, on your faces, in your songs and in your prayers. The joy with which you bring your faith to other lands. And so I call you smugglers of the faith, nung sabi niya. Because wherever you go to work, you sow the faith. Through your discreet and hard-working presence, through your humble, hidden, courageous, and persevering presence.